Imagine waking up tomorrow, not to the gentle light of dawn, but to a world forever changed in a single, terrifying moment. Instead of birdsong, you hear a low, ominous rumble. The world is trembling, as if the earth itself is trying to warn us. The ground shudders with a deep, guttural groan from the heart of the planet, sending shockwaves through every building and every soul. Outside, the sky is a suffocating blanket of charcoal and soot, blotting out the sun and turning midday into an eerie, unnatural night. The air tastes of sulfur and grit, every breath a reminder that something catastrophic is unfolding. This isn't a nightmare. This is the day a supervolcano awakens, and the world as we know it is thrown into chaos. News alerts flash one word: Yellowstone. The name alone sends a chill down your spine as the world realizes what's happening. The shaking is not local, it's the pulse of a geological titan stirring, felt across continents. A force that cannot be ignored. Phones ring unanswered, the internet flickers and dies, and the hum of civilization is replaced by confusion, panic, and fear. We've always looked to the stars for threats, searching the skies for danger. But what if the greatest peril has been beneath our feet all along? The eruption of a supervolcano is a scenario of unimaginable power, a reminder that our planet is alive, unpredictable, and shaped by a violent history. It forces us to confront the fragility of our world and how quickly everything we take for granted can be swept away. Today, we'll walk through this scenario, exploring the science, the impact, and the urgent questions it raises about humanity's place on Earth. What happens when the ground gives way to a power we cannot tame, and nature reclaims its dominance? Join me as we venture into the heart of the fire to understand what would happen if the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted tomorrow, and what it would mean for all of us. To truly grasp the magnitude of the threat lurking beneath Yellowstone, we must first understand what a supervolcano actually is, and why it's so different from the volcanoes we usually imagine. Yellowstone isn't a typical mountain with a single peak, it's a vast, hidden chamber of molten rock, stretching for miles and miles beneath the Earth's crust, invisible to the naked eye. The entire Yellowstone National Park, with its forests, rivers and geysers, is actually the lid on this colossal underground cauldron. It's what scientists call a caldera, a volcanic system of truly terrifying proportions, formed by ancient cataclysmic eruptions. The magma chamber is immense, stretching about 55 miles long and 20 miles wide. And it's filled with unimaginable heat and pressure. For comparison, the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, devastating as it was like a firecracker next to Yellowstone's potential fury. A super eruption is the rarest and most violent volcanic event on Earth, capable of changing life globally in a matter of days. Yellowstone has erupted on a super scale at least 3 times in the past, each time reshaping the landscape and affecting the entire planet. The last major eruption, 640,000 years ago, was 1,000 times more powerful than Mount St. Helens, sending shockwaves across continents. It ejected enough ash and rock to bury entire states, darken skies, and cast a volcanic winter over the planet for years. These catastrophic events are separated by vast stretches of calm, making the threat seem distant and deceptive to those who visit today. Geysers and hot springs are just the surface vents of a slumbering giant, hinting at the immense forces below. The heat that powers Old Faithful and the park's other wonders is the same energy that could one day fuel a world-altering catastrophe. The giant is not dead. It's merely sleeping, its violent history written in the ancient rocks and rugged landscapes of the American West, waiting for its next awakening. How would we know if the giant was stirring? Scientists monitor Yellowstone with sensitive instruments, listening for whispers from the deep. The main warning sign: increased seismic activity. More frequent, intense earthquakes could mean magma is moving. Ground deformation is another clue. If the surface bulges rapidly, it signals immense pressure below. Scientists use GPS and satellite radar to track these changes. Changes in geysers, hot springs, or volcanic gas emissions could also indicate trouble. These are symptoms of the volcano's fever. Despite all this, prediction is difficult. Warning signs could appear weeks, months, or years before an eruption, or escalate suddenly. The system is so complex, we may not know the final trigger until it's too late. We can listen to the whispers, but may not understand them until the giant begins to shout. This uncertainty is perhaps the most unsettling part of the Yellowstone equation. The world watches, hoping for silence. If warnings fail, the eruption would unfold with unimaginable speed and violence, catching even the most prepared off guard. The world would watch in horror as nature's fury is unleashed on a scale never before witnessed by modern civilization. It would start with a swarm of intense earthquakes shaking the ground relentlessly. The Earth's crust would tear open along massive ring fractures, splitting the landscape apart and sending shockwaves for hundreds of miles. From these fissures, a column of ash, gas, and rock would blast into the stratosphere, reaching over 30 miles high. The eruption would be so powerful it would be visible from space, dwarfing anything humanity has ever seen. The sky would look torn apart, filled with boiling clouds of ash and lightning, turning day into night in an instant. This isn't a slow lava flow. It's an explosion of raw force, a detonation that shatters the silence and obliterates everything in its path. The area around Yellowstone would be instantly annihilated by pyroclastic flows, incinerating everything within 100 miles. These superheated avalanches would move faster than a speeding train, leaving nothing but scorched earth behind. Towns, forests, rivers, buried under hot ash. The landscape would be unrecognizable, transformed into a gray wasteland in minutes. This is the kill zone. Survival is impossible here. Life as it once existed would be erased in an instant. Further out, ash would fall like abrasive cement, plunging cities into darkness and burying them under feet of debris. The weight of the ash would crush rooftops and block out the sun for days. Buildings would collapse, engines would fail, water would be contaminated, and breathing would be lethal without protection. Everyday life would become a struggle for survival. Modern life would grind to a halt. Streets would empty, businesses would shutter, and silence would fall over once bustling cities. Air travel would stop instantly. The sky becomes a no-fly zone. No planes could take off or land, isolating entire regions from the rest of the world. Commerce and communication would fail, networks would go dark, and the world would be cut off, unable to coordinate relief or share information. The economy would face an unprecedented shock, with markets crashing and livelihoods vanishing overnight. The eruption is just the beginning, a trigger for a chain reaction felt for years. The consequences would ripple across the globe, affecting every aspect of life. The world would never be the same. In the aftermath, humanity would be forced to reckon with the true power of the planet we call home. As the initial shock fades, a new disaster begins. The ash cloud carried by winds would circle the globe within weeks, dimming sunlight and casting the world into a perpetual twilight. Sunsets would glow red, a constant reminder of catastrophe. Ash is highly abrasive and corrosive, destroying electronics and crippling power grids. Water treatment plants would clog, making water unsafe. The systems supporting daily life would break down. Air travel would be impossible. Global supply chains would collapse. Medicine, machine parts, and critical goods would stop flowing. The economic consequences would be staggering. Markets would crash, industries would collapse, and insurance companies would fail. The interconnected global economy would become our greatest vulnerability. Yellowstone's eruption would trigger a worldwide depression. This is not just a geological event, it's a global crisis. The world would be forced to adapt to a new, darker reality. The most profound consequence would be the effect on global climate. Sulfur dioxide gas would form a haze of sulfuric acid aerosols, reflecting sunlight and causing temperatures to plummet. This volcanic winter could last a decade or more. Global temperatures might drop by 10 degrees Celsius, crippling agriculture worldwide. Monsoons could fail, grain belts would freeze, and food supplies would shatter. Famine would follow, with food reserves depleted in months. Nations would hoard resources, and conflict could erupt. Billions would be at risk, and ecosystems would collapse. The eruption might last days, but its legacy, a long, cold winter, would reshape civilization. Can we survive? For those near the blast, the answer is no. For the rest, survival becomes a desperate calculation. The wealthy might retreat to bunkers, but most would rely on government preparedness and community resilience. Emergency plans would be overwhelmed by the scale of the crisis. Science and technology would be vital, predicting ashfall, modeling climate, engineering filtration, and developing hardy crops. Human innovation would be key to adapting and rebuilding, if society survives the initial shock. Most of us are unprepared. Our lives depend on fragile systems. A Yellowstone eruption would sever these connections, forcing a primitive struggle for survival. It would test our communities and compassion. The best and worst of humanity would emerge. Survival would depend on adaptation, ingenuity, and unity. The ultimate test: can we endure when the world changes overnight? Considering a Yellowstone eruption isn't about fear, it's about humility. We are guests on a fragile crust above unimaginable power. Our civilization exists at the mercy of geological forces beyond our control. Yellowstone's story is one of fragility and interconnectedness. Our economy, food, and technology all depend on stability that isn't guaranteed. We must build resilience, invest in monitoring, and value cooperation. A global crisis demands unity, not division. The thought of a supervolcano puts our daily worries in perspective. It reminds us to appreciate the quiet, stable world we have. The giant may sleep for millennia or stir in our lifetime. We cannot control it, only seek to understand and prepare. We've imagined a world reshaped by Earth's power, a single event challenging civilization's foundations. But nature isn't the only mystery. Time itself governs every moment, yet remains elusive. What if we could bend its flow, travel to the past or future? Is time a river or a landscape to explore? Join us next time as we dive into the paradoxes and possibilities of time travel. The universe is full of wonders and dangers, and the more we learn, the more we realize how much is unknown. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and never stop exploring. The cosmos is waiting. Thank you for joining us on this journey.
You've seen what could happen, but this was only the beginning. Next episode: what if gravity